Here are my concluding thoughts on the wipe of patch 0.13. We're going to start with a general overview and then talk about the good and the bad. This was the wipe where the map Streets was added to the game. Streets is a map that has revitalized the game and brought a lot of old players back, as well as increasing the overall popularity of the game. Streets is a map that players have been looking forward to for literally years. And surprisingly, it did not disappoint. Streets, in my mind, has become one of the best, if not the best, map in the entire game. The majority of my raids this wipe have been on Streets, and I have been absolutely loving the map. The week 1 PvP on the map was incredible, and as the map matured over time, it did not become the camp fest that I imagined it would. The map is still reasonable to traverse, and it's still a lot of fun to play. And with the release of Streets, the devs were able to focus more on the game, making a lot of really good changes. For example, high-end ammos have been removed from the traders, and now you can access them in your hideout by crafting them. This has given your hideout and crafting a lot more value, as well as reduced the availability of overpowered ammos such as M61 and 762x39 BP. They reduced the movement speed penalty on armors by about 50%, so armors like the Corund, which used to be minus 18% to movement speed, are now only minus 9% to movement speed. This was a massive quality of life improvement because it made our characters more mobile and made the game a lot more engaging and fun to play. That being said, soon after they added movement speed penalties to backpacks, which I think is a bad and unnecessary change. I think the only thing with backpacks that should matter is the storage size of the container and the appearance of the backpack's model on your player character. These are the two things that should be relevant. I don't think they need a movement penalty. One of the potential positives that has then turned negative also is a dramatic reduction in recoil. Originally, at the start of the wipe, we had the old stats of recoil, which I thought were fine. The recoil was reduced, and I thought, well, I guess this is okay. So for a period of time with the recoil reduced, it felt pretty good. Then more towards the end of the wipe, they dramatically reduced recoil again. And I think the second time that they reduced recoil, they went overboard with the reduction to the point where, sure, players should theoretically live because players had less effective ammos, but you end up neutralizing that survivability when you make weapons far more accurate than how they previously were. However, depending on who you are, the recoil changes can either be a positive or a negative. To me personally, I think they lean more towards being an overall negative after the second reduction, but I think they were an overall positive after the first recoil reduction. They know the current recoil system is not the best, which is why they are planning to rework it in the future. So hopefully that will give us some interesting gameplay. Now onto the bad for this wipe. At the start of the wipe, the levels of desync that players experienced was unbelievable. You would load into a Streets raid and you would be stationary for between 2 to 3 minutes while you were just desyncing in place. It was so bad that sometimes you would have scav players scav in while you were still desyncing in your spawn. The audio has also been a massive problem since the start of the wipe, even till now, the end of the wipe. The game switched from Steam audio to Oculus audio. What that means, I honestly have no idea, other than the fact, as a player, you experience significantly worse audio that is very confusing to interpret. There have been many times this wipe where you'll hear a sound at 12 o'clock and think, something is directly in front of me. And then you will turn your character slightly and you'll hear the audio pan and you'll think, wait, what I'm hearing is not 12 o'clock. It is in fact 6 o'clock. So the audio I'm hearing is not in front of me, it is behind me. That is an issue that has been experienced for the vast majority of this wipe. Thankfully, we are in a current place with the audio where this is more easy to distinguish. However, many times this wipe, when I heard a sound, I would wiggle my mouse left and right in order to pan the audio in my headphones to better tell where is the audio actually coming from. This really is the one silver lining that I can think of in reporting with the audio, because for the most part, every update that they have done to improve the audio, I feel like it has made it worse. As a player, there's really 3 things I want to know when I hear audio. 1, I want to know the direction that the sound came from. 2, I want to know the distance of how far away that sound is from my character. And 3, I want to know if that sound is the same elevation as I am, or if it's above me or below me. I feel like at the start of the wipe, 2 of these requirements were met. At the start of the wipe, when I heard audio, I knew the direction and I knew the distance. The only problem was there was no way to tell elevation. And to be clear, this is a massive problem. Because on maps like Interchange that have 3 levels, the upper level, the ground floor, and the underground parking garage area, if you heard someone running, you would imagine that they are at the same level as you, but they could be on the top floor of the mall, and you could be in the parking garage, and it would sound like you were right on top of each other. These early audio problems made maps like Reserve, Interchange, and Shoreline, specifically the resort area, incredibly difficult and frustrating to play, because you heard audio, you didn't know what it meant. The real reason why these engagements were a problem is because the third part of the question was not answered. You did not know the elevation of the audio you were hearing. The following up patches to audio have muddied this even further, because the follow-up patches have made the audio more, air quotes, realistic. So instead of hearing a guy running through a wall, you hear him running only from the doorway opening in the wall. The audio is not coming from his character, the audio is coming from the doorway, and the volume is adjusting based on how close he is to the door. And the volume is what is indicating his distance to the doorway. It is very confusing, it is very unintuitive, and I think this is their focus of making the audio more realistic, which is making the audio worse for players. The next biggest problem of this wipe was the cheaters. Because of the success of Streets bringing so many players back and overall elevating the popularity of the game, it was no surprise that there was an increase in cheaters as well. For very experienced FPS players like myself, the presence of cheaters is not really that surprising. However, there was a content creator called The Goat who published a video called The Wiggle That Killed Tarkov. And when I watched the video, I thought, okay, certain parts of this make me really mad. Certain parts of this I'm really not surprised. Like, cheaters cheat. Yeah, they do. Like, I don't understand how that's confusing. However, this was a massive eye-opener for the community. Because a lot of the times when a streamer gets killed by a cheater and they're like, yeah, that guy was cheating, the people in chat will speak up and say, nah, he was just better than you. You need to think about what you did wrong there. Nah, skill issue. That guy's just good. You shouldn't assume cheats. And for a long time I have wondered, why do these people in chat think this? Are they ignorant to the reality that cheaters exist? Are they really this naive? And the answer is yes. or the fact that they themselves are a cheater as well. But anyways, the reason why this video was so impactful for the community is for a lot of people, watching the video was an eye-opening experience. Especially when there was things in the video stated like 60% of raids had a cheater. So that means more than half of your games will have a cheater in the game the moment you load into it. And it's probably an even higher number than that because there's probably cheaters who know how to not make themselves look blatant and silly. They basically know how to not incriminate themselves with their movements, but they could still be cheating. And for a game like Tarkov, which is you lose all of your equipment upon death and it's very, air quotes, hardcore, this posed a big problem for the people who play this game. If you invest so much time into leveling up your character to get access to gear, to then use the gear, and you just get aimbotted and you lose everything, what is the purpose of continuing to play? And for a lot of people, the reality that cheaters exist in such a large amount that they do was very demoralizing and demotivating to play the game. Now, I'm a Counter-Strike player, so I've dealt with this for maybe 15 years. Cheaters are gonna cheat. They're just gonna do it. You gotta decide for yourself if the game is still worth playing or not. It would be amazing to live in a world where nobody cheated, but people cheat in single-player games. People cheat in games that are not competitive. To be clear, Tarkov is not a competitive game, but people cheat in, like, the most absurd thing. People cheat on an eye exam, and then they get the wrong prescription. Think about that. So, it is what it is. Like, for a lot of people, it's an instant reason to not play the game, and that's fine. Hopefully the devs can get a handle on it, and hopefully we can live in a world where people do not cheat and they feel like it's a better investment of their time to play the game legitimately and actually enjoy the experience of the game. The last problem I want to talk about is ever since the start of the wipe, when you initially launch Escape from Tarkov, it just randomly decides what monitor it wants to open on. If you have a multiple monitor setup, I hope you know what I'm talking about because I really want them to fix this. Ever since this wipe, without fail, every time I open the game, it decides to open on a different monitor. And sometimes when you go into the settings, you have to select the wrong monitor for the game to display on the monitor that you want it to be displayed on. And then when you launch it the next time, it'll go to the wrong monitor because that's what you told it to open on. So then you have to tell it to switch back to the monitor that you want it to be on. And then you'll close it and open it again, and then it'll open on the wrong one, even though you have it set to, you have the correct monitor selected. It is very frustrating, especially since it's the first thing that you experience when you open the game. You're like, awesome, I'm in the mood for some CBT. So you launch Escape from Tarkov, and immediately it opens on the wrong monitor. And you're like, great, now I have to deal with this again. And so you go into the settings and adjust it, or you just close the game and reopen the game, and it's like, why is this a hassle within your first, 2 seconds of opening the game? It's very frustrating, and I wish they would fix whatever this issue is, so that when I tell the game to open on a certain monitor, every time I open the game, it will open on the monitor that I told it to open on. That would be really nice. That being said, not to end the video with only doom and gloom, this has been a fantastic wipe. Like I said, this could potentially be my favorite wipe even including the one where I started playing the game. Streets has just been such an amazing map. Playing it has been such an amazing experience. And with future wipes, I'm very concerned that they might somehow ruin Streets. So my concern is when they add the boss, they're going to turn the Lexos dealership into an area similar like water treatment on Lighthouse. I hate the water treatment area on Lighthouse. As a solo player, it's annoying to go there, and I am worried that they're going to turn the Lexos dealership into a similar kind of annoying place to go. Where, furthermore, I am concerned that the BTR taxi is going to be ridiculously overpowered, and I am very worried that I will spend 15 minutes looting, I will decide to go to the extract, and I'll just get blown up by the BTR taxi. This does not sound like a very fun thing for me. I am not looking forward to this, but we will have to see how it's implemented in game, because maybe it's not a problem. Maybe everything will be just fine. Like this wipe, for example, a lot of people were worried that grenade launchers were going to ruin the game, and grenade launchers have not really functioned that big of a role in gameplay this wipe. I don't think I've been killed by a grenade launcher this wipe, and I don't think I've used one this wipe, primarily due to the fact that when you equip a grenade launcher, it just tanks the ergonomics of your weapon, and unless you have the right grenade launcher ammo that detonates at closer ranges, it's kind of annoying to use. So we were worried that it would ruin the game, but it wasn't that big of a deal. So my biggest fear is that they will somehow ruin Streets. Another thing to talk about with Streets. I remember there was an initial speculation that the map Labs will be tied into the map Streets. And the speculation was that it'll be similar to Reserve and the Reserve Bunker, where on the top will be Streets, and underneath, connected to the same map with no load screens, will be Labs. I really don't want this. Streets is one of my absolute favorite maps, and Labs is one of my absolute most hated maps. And the reason why is because Labs is infested with cheaters. Labs is the cheaters map. It just is. So if they made it, so for example, if they made it so the only way to get into Labs is you have to play Streets to get into Labs, I think that would increase the amount of Labs cheaters on Streets, making Streets unplayable and ruined the same way that Labs currently is unplayable and ruined. So I do not want Streets and Labs to be connected. I know there was some initial speculation that they might do this. I do not want this. I hope this does not happen. I am looking forward to Streets being expanded. I am concerned about the Lexos dealership becoming an area similar to water treatment on Lighthouse. I am worried that they're going to ruin the magic of the map Streets, because right now as it stands, it's my favorite map, and I really want it to just expand, and I don't want it to be ruined. So this wipe has been awesome. I will see you guys in the next one. And they also added the first in-game trader, the Lightkeeper.